Hello, it's April 2022, and people have kind of asked this question over the years and recently. Basically, what have I learned from all this? And I've thought about it, and I've learned a lot. And this video is more to put more a positive spin on the hardships that I've been enduring and am enduring. So I would have to say right off the top, one of the biggest things that I've learned is survival. I spent years before studying about it and everything else. By no means am I a Les Stroud from Survivor Man or anything else, but I try to learn as much as I could, and then having to put it into practice. And even as prepared as you think you are, there's a lot of things little things, and it's little things that pile up that really could take its toll. But survival and putting it into practice and learning to, for example, scavenge for firewood. I've done a video about that, and honing in on some basic skill sets like building a fire in the rain, all these kind of things. And also, I suppose, having to ration supplies and having that discipline, especially when you're hungry. Now, there's been a lot of times where I've rationed and gone through that, and then I usually try to have a small auxiliary that basically you forget about. I've gone through that, and now I have no auxiliary or nothing. And that discipline, and then that segues into a test of character, having to endure. Say, for example, especially last winter was so brutal, with like minus, plus, or minus negative temperatures, and having to deal with the cheap diesel heater that I was using at the time, and no heat and no gas, no food, and just trying to endure and trying to keep busy. And I guess through that, learning to find joy, happiness in little subtle things, maybe even if it's just a bird that would come around every day to visit, things like that. Just, there's one spot where I like to go to. You have wild horses and stuff, and I've had them come right up to my window, and I've shown actually video clips of that in videos. So things like that, you learn to just try to find something to lift your spirits, to find some happiness, even if it's just for a moment. And that really helps a lot. And there's things like that you learn, that strength to endure the cold and the hunger. And there's a lot of people who do extreme sports, for example, and deliberately put themselves at risk for that rush. In reality, you're not doing any of that in a real survival situation, and you don't have to be in a plane crash on the side of a mountain, remote, thousands of miles away from civilization, to be in a survival situation, or on a life raft in the middle of the ocean, or on a desert island, or whatever. You can still have to deal with the same things, even close to civilization, and even in civilization. And a good example would be homeless people. They're dumpster diving and sleeping on the sidewalks and stuff, and it's sad to see people like that. And then you have people who may be living out of their vehicles. The same inner strength, the same tests of character, the same ordeals as somebody, say, on the side of a mountain, having to survive, they're going through. So, it's just more, I'm trying to think of a descriptive, more exaggerated, more Hollywood, more exciting when it is, on a deserted island, and, you're trying to make a fire and everything else. It doesn't seem so exciting when It's in your backyard, as figuratively speaking. So there's a lot that I've learned about myself and learning about my physical limitations now. Now that I'm older, I have injuries, I have health issues, and learning to work around all that and just trying to get through the day. And it's more than just physical and emotional. There's a whole spiritual side too that you really tap into with yourself when you're having to face reality of hardship. So, and a lot of people are scared of hardship, period, whether it be within civilization as it is, or having to go to extreme survival within, close to, or well outside of civilization. There's really nothing to be scared of unless you doubt yourself. And if you doubt yourself and you haven't prepared, say, with even some basic skill sets, what are you going to do? And it's interesting, over the past few years, a lot of people have said, oh, if things get really bad, they're just going to go out into the wilderness and survive. And yet a lot of these people haven't even gone camping. They haven't learned anything. They haven't experienced having to even endure a long weekend outdoors, and they think they're just going to go out. And even over the years, people have said, oh, but there's rabbits and all sorts of stuff you can. Well, for one thing, if you don't have any tools to hunt with, you're not hunting, and you got to worry about the laws behind that, which hinder you with what you could hunt. And like things like rabbits and deers and stuff, it's you see them more in the city than you do in the wilderness. And bears and stuff like that, it's not like it's like going grocery shopping. And it's like, oh, and fishing is another example. What time of year is it? What kind of fish are you catching? And then you have to be very mindful if these fish are carrying any kind of parasites or anything like that. So there's a lot going on. And then when it comes to plants, most plants you can't eat. You have to really know your plants and know what parts you can eat. And that's a skill set in itself. Like, people have spent years and years learning that, and you have to learn the plants in your region. So say, for example, if you're on the east coast of Canada and you know your plant life there and you know what to eat, but you go to the west coast, different plants. Well, there might be some that are the same or similar, but different plants. And like, you can go to different countries and around the world, and so yeah, it's there's a lot to learn, and I've learned a lot over the years. And I think one of the most important things that I've learned is to really appreciate, not take for granted little things, like when people reach out to help one way or another. And even if something as simple as having a shower or something, not taking that for granted. And even having, for example, in civilization, you would have water accessible to you 24/7, fresh, clean drinking water. Well, I mean, we can get into what they put into the water. That's a different tangent, but I think that would be probably the one of the biggest lessons that I've learned. So anyway, I just wanted to share that, address, those questions that people have asked me, and put a real positive spin to it. And as for civilization itself, I've learned a lot. And perhaps one of the things I've learned is, when you're exposed to something that is as a descriptive of moral, maybe it is better to turn a blind eye and walk away. But that's a video in itself, and I've talked about this in other videos. Anyway, thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share.
Listen to this and write it down if you can't remember it. You're never going to outgrow warfare. You simply must learn to fight. I hear people saying to me, oh, when is it going to get easier? When you die.